Trainers, welcome back to the Respawn Realm channel, where we dive into everything Pokemon. Today, we're talking about the exciting world of Pokémon TCG Pocket, which I'm sure most of you have heard about. I consider this the ultimate mobile game for trading card enthusiasts. So in that context, I would love to share my insights on the game after being a level 27 player with over 2 months of gameplay experience. Whether you're a seasoned card battler or new to the game, these 5 tips and strategies will give you an edge even before you start playing it. Let's jump right into it. First up, know your card types. Pokémon TCG Pocket revolves around 3 key card types: the Pokémon cards, the item cards, and the supporter cards. First up, Pokémon cards. These are your main fighters. Each Pokémon has unique moves, weaknesses, and strengths. Next comes the item cards. These cards can change the course of gameplay in seconds in your favor. Think of them as the fuel for your deck. Finally, the supporter cards. These give you extra boosts like drawing more cards, healing your Pokemon, or disrupting your opponent's strategy. Before jumping into battles, familiarize yourself with these cards so you can build a balanced deck. A good mix is crucial for staying flexible during matches. With that, let's jump in our strategy number 2. Speaking of balance, tip number 2 is all about deck building basics. A solid beginner deck usually has around 20 cards with a mix of basic and evolved EX Pokemon cards along with item and supporter cards. Focus on a single type of or a max of 1 or 2 Pokemon types like fire and water or electric and grass. This way, your energy is more useful and your strategy becomes clearer. Oh, and don't forget, synergy between your Pokemon trainer and item cards is a game changer. In this video, I'm building a dark type deck as it is also considered a budget deck, which will help a lot of you guys who are beginners and haven't unlocked all the top cards yet. Remember, you can always update your deck as you pull new cards in the future. Today, I'm building a dark type deck consisting of Weezing and Scolipede and a mix of different item and supporter cards. One of the reasons I chose this combo is due to the low energy requirement of Weezing and Scolipede's additional damage, which I believe is 120 in certain cases, with only 2 energies consumed. Now, talking about my supporters, this Koga supporter card allows you to put your Weezing or Mach, which we are not using in this case, away from the active spot and back into the draw pile, which allows you to build your Weezing once again from scratch and nullify the damage it took. Similarly, the Sabrina card forces your opponent to change his active Pokemon and send it to the bench, which are all interfering with your opponent's strategy. On top of that, I used the Potion item card to replenish damage if I faced a critical situation, or even the Pokeball cards that allows me to pull a card from the deck in case I'm missing an evolution or a certain card in accordance to the strategy. In short, a good balance is all you're looking for. With that being said, let's jump into strategy number 3. So let's jump into tip number 3. In tip number 3, let's talk about battles. Understanding the flow of the match is very essential. So here's a quick breakdown of the battle phases. Over here, I will show you guys the basic fundamentals of the game and how TCG is played in general. So first comes setting up your card. Over here, as you can see, I'm using the fire deck and I'm going up against the grass deck. So obviously I have the type advantage over here, but I'm putting the Growlithe, which ultimately evolves into the Arcanine, in the active spot. And if you ask me why, is because I want to build my Charmander into a Charizard. It's a triple evolution, so it takes time. It takes at least 3 turns. So I have to make sure that the Charizard is safe. So I'm putting it on the bench. So The first step is knowing what to place as your active Pokemon and what to place as your bench Pokemon. Your active Pokemon, guys, always remember, is your main fighter, while your bench Pokemon are your backups. For me, the strategy that I personally use, I like to build my heavy hitters in the back. Like I mentioned earlier, is because, like I said, Charizard, the ultimate energy for Charizard is Crimson Fire, and it takes 4 energies to fire off. It's 200 damage. It will take out most Pokemon in the game. But for me to build up to that, I need to build it and save the Pokemon from getting damage onto it. So it's always important to strategize where you want to keep your heavy hitters. For me, I always like to build them in the back. Secondly comes the draw phase. Guys, at the start of every turn throughout the course of the game, you get to draw a card. On top of that, there are 2 cards that help you pull more cards every turn. For example, the Professor's Research that lets you pull out 2 cards from your deck, and the Pokeball card that lets you draw 1 card from your deck on top of your initial 1 draw. So always make sure to load them up in your deck when you're building it before the game. For Pokeball cards specifically, Pokeball cards you can use more than 1 in 1 turn, with a maximum of 2 that you can keep in your deck. So the advantage of the draw phase is, so if you're missing an item card, if you're missing a supporter card, or if you're missing a Pokemon for evolution, the draw phase allows you to pull that card. You might get it, you might not get it, but always getting a card helps you build the strategy throughout the game as you go. The third point is attack phase. Over here, as you can see, I'm putting my energy on Growlithe. I'm eventually going to build an Arcanine if I do get it in the future turns. Arcanine takes 3 energies to fire off Inferno Onrush. It also does 30 damage to itself. But I would like to fire that off because it would take out any of my opponent's bench or active Pokemons in its current state, as I can see. And I can, at the same time, build my Charizard in the back with 4 energies to fire up that Crimson Fire. And I also have a Moltres, just in case if I swap out the Moltres to my active spot, I can use its Inferno Dance ability to feed off more energy to my Charizard or my Arcanine based off on how the course of the game has come down to. So it is very important to plan it out ahead of time, ahead of every turn, I would say. And over here, like I'm demonstrating, I'm assigning it out just like I mentioned and planning out my attacks for the next couple turns. Remember, guys, every attack costs energy, so it is very important to be careful of which Pokemon you're assigning the energy to. One bad assigning would lead you to not fire a Pokemon or miss out on a chance to get a point and give advantage to the opponent automatically. So one key tip that we can take from this is we always got to keep an eye out for the opponent's bench. It is very important, guys. It's one of the most intrinsic part of the TCG gameplay, because if you don't anticipate which Pokemon they might bring out or what they're doing, let's say for example, like if they're keeping a Pokemon in the active spot for a long time, that generally means they're stalling in order to build their Pokemon in the back. Or if they're pulling their Pokemon back into their bench, that means they want to save them. So little things like that helps you understand what the Pokemon, what the opponent is strategizing against you. So you have to use it to your advantage and plan it out for yourself accordingly. Like I said in the previous strategies, preparation, building the deck is key to victory in this game. So keeping that in mind, we will jump into tip number 4. Tip number 4, when to retreat. Sometimes it's better to pull back a weak or energy drained Pokemon rather than let it get knocked out. To retreat, you'll need to pay an energy cost, but trust me, it's worth it if it saves your strategy. For example, over here, as you guys can see, I have retreated Growlithe so that it does not take in further damage and gets the chance to evolve into Arcanine. As I'm looking to make the game-changing attack Inferno Onrush off, as it would guarantee me a point just by looking at the opponent's bench. At the same time, as you guys can see, I have a Charizard ready to fire off that Crimson Storm if needed on the back. One pro tip from this discussion would be to always have a backup plan. Keep a strong Pokemon on your bench, ready to step in and turn the tide of the battle. Retreating at the right moment can mean the difference between winning and losing. Always remember that. Now let's jump into tip number 5. Finally, for tip number 5, I would say resource management is everything in Pokémon TCG. Don't burn through all your supporter cards or trainer cards early in the game. Save them for the critical moments. For example, a well-timed trainer card or supporter card can heal your Pokemon or disrupt your opponent's gameplay when they least expect it. As you can see the battle on your screen, how I'm gonna demonstrate using the supporter cards and the item cards to change the course of the gameplay. As you can see, I'm building my bench and my active Pokemon and trying to get less attack or damage onto them so that I can build up to the next evolution. So I'm using my resources effectively, trying to stall it as long as possible into the next few turns. Resource management is critical to success or failure in the battle. Also, keep track of your discard pile. If too many crucial cards end up there, you might struggle to finish. Trainers, always remember, playing smart and conserving resources is what separates the casual players from the pros. And there you have it, 5 essential tips to help you dominate in Pokémon TCG Pocket. Whether you're building your first deck or climbing the leaderboard, these strategies will set you up for success. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss out on more Pokemon content. Let me know in the comments which tip you're excited to try out or share your own strategies. Until next time, trainers, stay sharp and happy battling.